So it's a cool grey February morning here in Essex, but the daffodils are out, so spring can't be too far away. And I'm here with Barbara Anslow. Barbara, hello.
Hello.
Lovely to see you again. It was about 2 years ago, I think, that we had a similar chat, and that time we were talking all about your experiences at Stanley. But that wasn't the first time you were in Hong Kong, was it?
No. We first went in 1927 when I was 8.
8 years old, right. Now, if you can look back sort of a few months before that, what were you doing up until that time? Presumably in Britain somewhere.
We lived in Scotland.
Right.
My dad was an electrical engineer in the naval dockyard.
Right.
Naval dockyards. He was at Rosyth dockyard at that time, and we lived out a bit. We lived in a village called Crombie, which is near Dunfermline. Just a tiny village. Lovely life. Never heard of Hong Kong in my life before.
So those first 8 years, were they, pretty much in the same place? There wasn't a lot of moving about?
Well, I was born in Rosyth. We moved to Crombie before. I don't even remember it when I was very young. So all that time was in the village in Crombie.
Wow. I don't pick up any Scottish accent. So do you have a Scottish background?
Oh, well, I've been around a long time since.
Would you consider your family Scottish originally?
No.
No,
my parents both came from Kent.
Oh, okay, so it was just work that happened to take him up there.
He used to he started off, my dad, in Chatham Dockyard. Then he was, during the First World War, he was sent up to Rosyth.
So 8 years old, you've been in Scotland all this time, and then the news comes that you're off to Hong Kong. What did you think about it?
Well, we'd never heard of it before. And my dad told us that he would be wearing shorts. And in those days, men didn't wear shorts, not in general use. And we could hardly believe that.
That's funny, isn't it? So the most exciting part of the move was going to be the sight of your dad in his shorts.
Yes.
Now, of course, 27, I think even if you'd wanted to travel out by plane, it probably wasn't a possibility. So that would have been, was it train or train and boat? Boat? How did you?
Well, we went by train down to Tilbury, and we got the P&O ship, the Royal Pindy.
Right.
Which seemed like heaven to us kids. 5 weeks at sea.
5 weeks?
No school.
Oh, okay. That's not a hard sell to the kids then. I don't know, did you get fed up and a bit claustrophobic, or did you have enough to keep you?
No, we loved every minute of it. I mean, as much as we could eat, and choice meals, which we never had at home.
Right.
And other children to play with. We just roamed about all the time, had the time of our lives.
Did you manage to, with the sort of visits as you came into ports, or were you on the ship?
Yes, we went to all sorts of ports, yes. Gibraltar, Penang, Colombo, Bombay, Singapore. Well, we went ashore everywhere and were taken out by our parents, to see the sights. Lovely.
Yes, what a change. I thinking back to when I was 8 and being excited about going from a small town in Wales up to London for a trip, and you are.
Big trip, yes.
Yes, you're off to see the world. Fantastic. So we come into Hong Kong. Do you have any first memories? Did it have any big impact on you at the time?
Well, first of all, we were going to try and get a flat somewhere. First of all, we were taken to a boarding house called Homeville in Wan Chai Road, Wan Chai. We hated it. We couldn't stand the heat.
Right.
And we had bars to the windows. We had ground floor rooms. The food was all spicy, not what we were used to at all. And we hated it.
I think you say even now you've never picked up a love of rice, have you? Which makes life in Hong Kong a bit tricky.
Yeah. Eventually we ended up in a flat in Kowloon, Cameron Road. And then we moved to Granville Road, another flat. And then we moved to Kennedy Road in Hong Kong. And then my father's health wasn't very good. The doctors said that he must get out of the climate. He must get to a temperate climate. So instead of staying 3 years, as we were meant to, we left after 2 years.
After only 2. So that's quite a lot of moving about. If you're only there for 2 years, it's kind of like every few months you're on the move again.
Yes, that's right, yes.
Now, when you were on Hong Kong side, I think you told me that you were near to the Morrison Hill site, which they were in the process of digging up for the reclamation.
Yes. Well, Homeville was right near to Morrison Hill. We could see them blasting it out of our window.
Now, I've posted up a picture of that reclamation work just recently from the late 20s.
Yes.
And it shows little railway lines snaking across the reclamation. So they'd set up a narrow gauge steam train railway to take all the rocks and earth around.
Yeah, I can't remember that at all.
Doesn't ring a bell. Okay, that's probably maybe more of a boy's memory. I'm sure if I'd been there, I'd have been stood watching the steam trains go by every day.
Yeah.
So you had your 5 weeks on the ship, no school then, and then you arrived, and I guess there was a bit of settling in. What did you do for school then?
Well, Olive went to Central British,
Right.
KG5. I was sent to Kowloon Junior.
Olive's a little bit older, is she?
A couple of years, yes,
Right.
yes. I went to Kowloon Junior. Mabel, who was only 4, she went in the mornings to the Italian convent. Oh yes, and then when I was old enough, after a term or two, I too went to KG5, and I hated it. I was completely out of my depth. Subjects I'd never heard of, hygiene, and languages and things like that. And I never really felt I was comfortable there. And I wasn't there very long because my mother discovered that you could go to the army school, the garrison school, without paying fees.
Aha, very attractive. Even now, Hong Kong and schooling is a lot of money.
So at that time we moved to Hong Kong anyway, Hong Kong side, and we weren't all that far from the garrison school. And that was lovely. It was so relaxed there, much better, and basic subjects.
Okay, so that was more comfortable.
Yes.
Now the garrison school would have been up in the old Victoria Barracks area, I guess. Was it up near
No, it was just beside the Peak Tram, when the Peak Tram was not where... the Peak Tram always confused me when we went there in 2008 because the road was on the wrong side for me.
That's right, there's a whole new road, yes.
Well, the garrison school was just beside the lower Peak Tram station.
Right.
There's a big nullah running down there.
That's right. I think the nullah was what they covered over and made that new road that confused you.
Yes, yes.
That's the garrison school. So whereabouts were you living? That was from Kennedy Road, was it?
Kennedy Road, yes. 98 Kennedy Road it was. It was a block up quite a number of steps with a nullah running down it. And below it were a lot of Chinese laundries. And we weren't all that far, just across the road from the Naval Hospital.
Yes, that's right. We've got some old pictures that show the area.
Yes.
So you've got the temple just below Kennedy Road.
Yeah.
And then there's the big open nullah or sort of like a stone storm drain, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the people would use that for the laundry. And we've got some pictures with the laundry hanging out to dry afterwards.
Yeah.
And then a little bit further over you had Hospital Hill with the Naval Hospital up on top.
Yes, that's right, yes.
And the old market down at the bottom.
Yes.
And then out to the sea from there.
Mm.
So how would you get to and from school then?
The simplest way would have been to walk on Kennedy Road because it just sort of dropped down the school from Kennedy Road.
Mm.
But we used to get the bus and walk down to Queen's Road,
Right.
down to the smelly streets and things like that. I always remember the smell. And we had the money for the bus, but I often used to walk to save the money to buy things.
Was that allowed, or was that your little secret that you had to keep
I
hidden?
don't know whether my mother knew or not, probably did. But I didn't walk on Kennedy Road. I walked down to I went through the bus route. So I wasn't on a lonely place. I was going through the bus route.
Right, yeah, Queen's Road would be a lot more sort of bustling. I think at that time, certainly the Central British School, as its name suggests, you had to have British parents to study there.
Yes, I never noticed any foreign people there at all. I think there must have been some Eurasians who somehow, I don't remember any, but I did have a Jewish friend, and she also went to Central British.
Right, yes, I don't think there was a religious distinction. I think it was just about which country your parents came from, yes. And then presumably Garrison School as well would be for the British servicemen's families.
Yes.
And I'd always assumed it was just for the army, but the Navy also allowed...
Navy and dockyard, we were allowed to, naval dockyard,
Right.
came under services.
Right. And of course, no sign of the dockyard now, but that was a big operation at the time, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
All that whole section of what we call Queensway today had the dockyard on one side.
Yes, and the floating dock and the wharves and things like that. It was right next door to what used to be the Victoria Swimming Club. That was there.
That's right, the Victoria Recreation Club, and they had their swimming and rowing boating.
Yeah.
That's right. So, what was it that your father was actually doing in the dockyards?
He was the superintending electrical engineer, So he worked in the generating station with a big tall chimney.
Ah, yes, we've got that picture of the big chimney.
Yes,
and that was the big landmark of the day, wasn't it? You could see that from everywhere.
Yes. And his office was all part of that building.
Right.
And he spent an awful lot of time in the generating station. And directly you opened that door, it was so overbearingly hot and all that. And in the end, I think that was what killed him.
Oh,
He died of a heart attack. He should never have gone back to Hong Kong, really, but because of his history, he had a very severe medical before we went the second time.
They gave him the all clear then, did they, to go?
Yes. I think it was just overwork.
Right. So we've heard a little bit about life at school, where you were living. How about your free time? What did you do when you weren't at school?
Oh, I used to wander around. We were allowed to go where we liked. We pleased ourselves. We went and saw friends and a lot of swimming. We had these dockyard bathing trips that we used to go.
Right.
Even then, the dockyard lot used to lay on the launch. Every weekend, 1 week a Saturday, 1 week a Sunday. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, after office hours, they ran a launch to Stonecutters.
Oh, even in the weekdays?
Even the weekdays, right. After office and after school hours.
Yeah.
Just to Stonecutters, which wasn't far, just to have a swim. So, a lot of swimming and going to see my friend, my Jewish friend, because when we left Kowloon side and went to Hong Kong side, they also moved to Hong Kong, and she was the other side of Morrison Hill, so I used to climb over Morrison Hill to go and see her.
Right.
And we wandered around. When we were living in Kowloon, Frida and I went everywhere. We walked everywhere. We had games and things like that. We played chucks. Do you know chucks?
Chucks? No, what's that?
5 stones. It's like
okay.
that, but little bags.
Right.
Little bags. We used to make them and put rice in them or sand and use them for doing this. Everybody played that.
I remember my sister playing. You sort of bounce the ball and try and pick up one,
yes,
then 2,
that's
then 3.
That's right. Yes, that's right. But with these little, we were always making bigger and better sets of chucks. Chucks, that's what we call them. Yes, that was very popular.
Oh, it's lovely that you were able to get out and about. I think kids today are probably either...
Oh, completely free. I mean, it was amazing, really, how safe it was.
It's still a very safe place, yes, but children, I think, maybe just seem to be studying all the time now. Don't get out a lot.
That's right.
That's the lovely thing if you read the Martin Booth book. He just was out roaming the streets as well.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
I think you've got a story of... Is it going to Yau Ma Tei and being...
Oh, that was when I was selling poppies.
Right.
Yes, that's right. My mum made me this bright red dress. And I went off with all my tray of poppies. And I've been told that we could travel free.
Right.
So I went everywhere. And I even was going went on the Yau Ma Tei ferry, which was further along, you know. And at that time, Yau Ma Tei was rather sort of very Chinese, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. And this policeman came up to me and said, I think it would be better if you went back on the ferry.
Oh, so you never got to sell your poppies in Yau Ma Tei.
Yeah.
But that could have been a whole untapped market. I think that's probably what you had in mind. I think the first time I heard about your 1920s visit was when we posted a picture which showed the King Edward Hotel.
Oh, yes, I remember that very well.
I was writing about it and saying it was because the building didn't have a roof, and then we found out it had had a fire.
Yeah. And
you actually remember it firsthand.
Yes. Well, I was at the Garrison School then.
Right.
And that morning we heard that this hotel had been on fire. So as soon as we were free at lunchtime, we went down to see what we could see. Mm. There was still firemen there, and there was still the hoses still,
right.
You know, still in the gutters, dribbling water and things like that. But I think we hoped we might see some corpses.
Oh dear, yes.
Well, I was about 9 or 10.
I'm sure that was the topic of conversation for days after that. There must have been.
Yes. One of Dad's colleagues, who'd not long come out to Hong Kong with his wife, they were staying there. They were both killed in that.
Oh, really? Wow.
A lot of people tried to jump, as we were told, and they missed the used to hold these things out for people to jump.
Try and catch them, that's right. Oh, that's shocking.
So I used all that in my novel when I wrote my novel.
Right. So any other big events of your Hong Kong trip that stick in your memory from that first visit?
Well, we used to go to the pictures, silent pictures, of course.
Right.
Silent pictures. And I think the swimming things were the most, the best of all. It just seemed a lovely time. We enjoyed it.
I don't think you talk to many people who've especially grown up in Hong Kong who don't have fond memories.
Yes. Apart from that, we didn't have to help wash the dishes and things like that.
That helps as well, doesn't it? So you had to come back early at that time because of your dad's health.
Yeah.
I guess then you had to settle in all over again, getting back to life in Britain.
Yes, that's right. First of all, Dad was posted to Sheerness Stockyard.
Right.
And that's where we lived for 5 years. And then he was posted to, not far from here, it's not a dockyard, but HMS Ganges at Shotley, Ipswich, not far from Ipswich.
Right.
It was a training thing for young sailors, and they had a generating station, so he was transferred there. And then we were sent to Hong Kong again in 1938.
We'll take a break here, then come back in part 2 to hear Barbara talk about returning to Hong Kong in 1938, the events of the evacuation in 1940 and her sudden return to Hong Kong after that, and then the outbreak of war in 1941.